Hello, everyone. I'm John Evans, and welcome to another episode of One on One. There are several reasons why Nanna Rivers is one of the newest members of the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame. Number one, she was one of the best basketball players on the planet. She won at the high school, college, and professional level. Number two, she's had a lot of Hall of Fame coaches and mentors throughout her life, including Donovan, Kay Yow, and Sheila Boles. Nanna is now passing on her expertise through her life coaching business. And one of the pieces of knowledge that you should know as we get started with this week's podcast is that Nanna is not her real first name.
Yeah, no one knows my real name is Carithia.
Yeah.
And even though I tell them that, it's hard to pronounce, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I had some gray hair. And my grandma at the time didn't have gray hair. And so she said, well, somebody got to be a Nanna, and it's not me.
And it stuck?
And it stuck. Like college, high school, pros, like even if you Google me to this day,
Yeah.
Nanna always pops up.
Yeah,
Carithia, you might find a few things,
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, I'm Nanna. It's right there for you. So.
And it doesn't even have Nanna in quotation
No.
marks. It's Carithia
No.
Nanna Rivers, like it's your middle name
And
or something.
I actually need to look into changing that. Seriously, I really do need to look at it because even sometimes, and you know, this is kind of crazy, but even with my checks sometimes,
Oh,
it
really?
has Nanna, right? It has Nanna on it. And so I'm like, oh, well, I like money as well. So,
So grandma labeled you Nanna.
yeah,
That's
and
funny.
it stuck. They've always told me I've had an old soul. And so grandma was on to something way before they were.
Yeah.
So, you know, hey.
When did you realize that your mom and your dad were good athletes? Because both your mom and your dad played college sports. When did you realize? I mean, because as kids grow up, they realize that, you know, dad may learn to this or mom may know how to do that. But when did you realize mom and dad were good athletes?
Well, with my dad, growing up, he'd always take me to the gym with him.
Oh, really?
And play with, you know, some of his guy friends. I was the only girl and the youngest one in there to play with him. And so that's the first time I really knew that, you know, he could play and could actually shoot a bank shot from anywhere on the court.
Really?
Yeah, and make it. But as far as my mom goes, that was a different story because my mom ran track in college. And so in times when I get in trouble and take off and start running, she'd always catch me. She'd always catch me, always. And so with that, it's like, okay, maybe she did have a great, you know, track,
Yeah, she
you
could
know,
sprint.
background.
Yeah.
Oh, I can never get away.
Yeah.
Literally never.
Yeah. So did you ask dad about playing ball? I mean, when did you, if you went to the gym and played with dad, when did you think and start liking the game? As early as you can remember?
I started liking the game at, I want to say 5 or 6. My parents put me into everything. I did taekwondo. I even did some golf, gymnastics. You know, that I did all of that.
Yeah.
But basketball was the thing that kind of kept me coming back. So the first team I've ever played on was called the Dream Team. And of course, I mean, we all
Right,
know why.
sure. Oh, yeah.
And we actually won like the Dream Team. Like we never lost.
And where was that?
It was at the Martin Luther King Center.
Okay.
My first coach was Ron Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was awesome. And I just kept coming back to it. The only girl on the team for a while. They didn't treat me like the only girl, which was great.
Yeah.
So I would say about 6.
And did you have, because there was women's professional basketball
Yes.
as you were growing up, I don't think it was nearly, WNBA was nearly as advertised and as prominent as it is today.
Right.
So I imagine NBA players were the ones you looked up to as you grew up?
Yeah, at that time it was definitely NBA players. And then I had players, you know, above me, you know, that played here, had gone to college and that kind of thing, that had kind of taken me under their wing and, you know, just trying to make sure, you know, I was becoming the best player, you know, that I could.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the NBA versus the WNBA.
Who did you look up, and when did you learn that Michael had gone to Laney and Michael was from Wilmington, and you know, did that enter your mind of wanting to be the next, the female Michael Jordan coming out of Wilmington?
It did for a little bit, and just finding out that my dad played against Michael as well, and you know, they both put on a good show, you know, back in those days, and so it was the Michael Jordan and being like Michael Jordan and going to Carolina and that kind of thing, and then, I had some sense knocked into me a little bit, and my course had changed a bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
What do you remember about growing up in Wilmington? What do you remember about high school and going to Hoggard and even middle school? You played ball at MLK Center. And, I've been here in town 26 years now. And as I hear people talk about the days back in the 90s and the 80s before I got here, Wilmington had a little more of a small town feel back then. Mm-hmm. It's grown a little bit and kind of expanded itself a little bit since in the time that I've been here. Heck, when I got here, South College Road wasn't even 4-lane to Monkey Junction. That's how much it's grown. But how do you remember Wilmington growing up?
Basketball for me was my life. It's always played a huge part of my life, and waking up on Saturday mornings and the weekends, going to the Martin Luther King Center to play our games was everything. Even if it was 9:00 in the morning, we still look forward to those games. And then at that time, we would have practice at it's not Williston. It used to be at the middle. Gregory. Yeah, we used to have practice in the Gregory gym, small gym. Just enough. Yeah. So we'd practice a few times during the week, and that's dependent on how well we did in school that day. So we'd practice during the week and look forward to what the weekend had to bring. And, it wasn't just basketball, it was t-ball as well.
You looked for a game of whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
T-ball, baseball, basketball, we literally, did it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something I read is that you played against boys all the way up through middle school, so when you actually got on a girls-only team...
It was really weird.
Yeah.
It was a culture shock.
Yeah.
It really was. Because, again, since 5, I played with boys. Even with AAU, I started off playing with boys as well. Mm. And so I just love the fact that, I was the only girl, but I was never treated like the only girl. Mm-hmm. It was just another person on the court competing to play the game that you loved.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a little different, when that had taken place.
And then you get to Hoggard. When did Sheila Boles come into your life?
The day one of stepping onto Hoggard's campus. She's always, been pivotal, when I was at Hoggard, whether it was just pulling me to the side and, just talking to me of having bad games or bad days. I'd live in her office. I mean, I'd go to class.
Right.
But, I'd, also, every day I'd go by her office and speak and have conversation, with her. And so, Coach Boles has always been, that person for me. She even said to me, she was like, Nanna, you know what? You're going to be a teacher or a coach one day. And I'm just like, teach? Not if I have to teach myself. I'm not going to be a teacher.
but isn't it amazing that somebody like that comes into your life at some point? You never know when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You never know who it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But that one person, and we all, years and years and years later, remember that person that comes into your life that makes so much of a difference. And I saw that at the news conference that I did for the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. How much of a relationship you and Sheila Boles have to this day.
Oh.
How much, it's a different relationship now than it was player or student and coach. And now it's woman to woman and friend to friend.
It is. And, Coach Boles will always have a special place in my heart. She's been there, through it all. Really, when my mom had cancer, right. Breast cancer, yeah. She would go with my mom to, some of her treatments. Whatever mom needed. Just give me a call. She's a superwoman. I don't understand how she does it half the time, but she gets it done.
I don't either.
She comes to cookouts, graduations, funerals, unfortunately. But her presence is known, and she has the biggest heart, that anyone could possibly, be a part of. And so I know that I'm blessed to have such a person like her in my life continuously to this day.
Right. Was there a time growing up, because growing up even in the 90s, as a teenager, there had to be challenges. I know when I was growing up in the 70s, there were challenges. Maybe not to this day with social media, but growing up, Was there a time that Sheila Boles made that big a difference, and maybe a decision that you made or a problem that you had?
You know what, John? Like, honestly, I've been blessed in my life where I haven't just had that one person to stand by me. Mm-hmm. And I know I spoke on that at the induction.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I've had many people to be able to stand by me even to this day. I think one of the most important career moves for me that Coach Boles allowed me to, or she factored through it with me. I was just finished with basketball overseas.
Right, yeah.
And I was just like, okay, like, what do I want to do next?
Yeah.
You know, and so I know my purpose on this earth to help people be better people. I knew that. Just wasn't sure what approach to take. And so I knew coaching in some facet was what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I called her, and she gave me a bit of a chewing, because she's just like, Nana, I know a lot of people, but as far as the reaching out piece, mm-hmm. I don't do that very well. It's something I need to do better at.
Right.
And so she's just like, you know, reach out to the people that love you, you know,
mm-hmm.
reach out to people that want to help you. You know, you're a great person. You know, you help so many. So, you know, reach out. Yeah. And so, you know, that took some, you know, beating into, and she did. Yeah. And so, you know, after that, she was just like, you know, I'll make some phone calls. She was like, you definitely make phone calls. And I listened. Yeah. Because that's, you listen to Coach Boles.
Sure. But it's that kind of person that gets out of you what you don't know you have in you.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know? Mm-hmm. And she did that to you. And then I was going to talk about coaching under Donovan, who was another, I think, is another great human being.
I told you I had great people in my life.
Yeah. I mean, to be able to coach under her. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about was at Hoggard, because when you go 114 mm-hmm. over 4 years, was it tougher than that looks? Because that looks like, wow, they were breezing past everybody.
Right.
You know, 25-1 or 25-2 or 25-3. How much hard work did you have to put in to be that good at that level?
It was so much hard work. And, you know, this credits the great coaches that I had, you know, mm-hmm. Coach Corey, Coach Spears, Coach Pridgeon, Coach Boyette. Like, those are unbelievable coaches, but not only unbelievable coaches on the court, like, they're life coaches. Mm-hmm. You know, so everything on the court had something to do with why you should be a better person off the court. Character was everything, you know. So sure. We put in hours at the gym. Our practices were probably harder than games. Yeah. And they meant well as far as that team chemistry piece. Yeah. And so if we all weren't doing it together, then we weren't doing it. Yeah. Or we were on the line running suicides.
Yeah. Suicides. I remember. I played. I was 6th or 7th man, but you know, you practice for 2 hours, and then all depending on. Then you see that the look in the coach's face, how many suicides you got to run. Mm-hmm. Did you guys have the free throws that you were able to cut down on the suicides if somebody went to the free throw line?
Yep. But you know, of course, we had a shack on the team every once in a while. And so we're like, well, you know, you hope for someone to make it. He's like, Shaq, okay, we gotta run.
And then but the coach knew who to call if he wanted you to do more, right? I remember some of those days because my kids weren't at Hoggard yet, but I remember some of those days when those teams were just powerhouses. Mm-hmm. What was so special about those teams? Because there are some teams that have the standout and everybody kind of gets behind the standout, mm-hmm. like a Cleveland Cavaliers right now, mm-hmm. okay? But then there are some teams who are just solid from team player 1 to team player 15.
And, you know, that's how it was my freshman year. We were ranked 8th in the nation. Mm-hmm. Catrice Horton was our point guard. And Coach Corey thought I was supposed to be on varsity, which he was on to something.
Yes, he was. I think
I wasn't on to it, but he was.
Don Corey had a pretty good judgment.
For sure. So he was on to something. And so, you know, I started as a freshman, you know, alongside Catrice Horton. And so and our entire starting 5, 6, 7, and 8th player were great players. Yeah. And so, like I said, we were ranked 8th in the nation then. We didn't win it, but, you know, just the work that we put into it just to be that highly ranked was good.
Because with some teams, you're just flat out better than everybody else. Yeah. But some have to work harder.
Right.
You know? And you didn't just play basketball, although you excelled at it. Mm-hmm. What did you like basketball better? Because you're a great volleyball player. You did a lot of other sports at Hoggard High School. But did you just like basketball better?
I did. I just had a love for basketball. And volleyball just came natural. And so I liked it, but it's just something that, I just have to jump and hit the ball. That works. Or just dive for it. That works. I really like basketball too, but volleyball as well. But basketball just, kept pulling at me. And it's something that I actually wanted to put more time into to perfect my craft at that time.
I read, and I want you to take us through this whole process when you're at Hoggard and you're starting to get some of the visits from coaches and you're starting to get some of the notoriety and when did you realize that playing sports at the next level could pay for your education and could take you to some of those places that maybe you didn't know 4 or 5 years before you could go?
It wasn't until, honestly, I would say I knew, but it wasn't something I focused on. Like, I just loved the game, and I just wanted to be better at the game.
Okay.
So it didn't really hit me like that until, I really struggled with the SAT. Like, that test was just, big time. Like, I really struggled with it. And so it was then it hit me okay, I could really go somewhere for free for 4 years, right. That kind of thing. So it was something that was like, okay, I need to put extra time and effort into getting this done to be able to, get that full scholarship.
Yeah. Coach Hatchell comes. Mm-hmm. She was one of the first ones to visit you?
Yes.
And I read that you said it wasn't exciting. What did you mean by that? Take me back through that visit and maybe because you were a Carolina fan growing up, were you not?
I was.
So what maybe shied you away from wanting to go to Chapel Hill?
Back then, I just felt like, because the recruiting piece can be a bit much for a 16, 17, 18-year-old. It can be a lot. And I felt like at that time, the approach was just too much for me and not necessarily the approach that worked for me.
Okay.
I felt it was a bit pushy almost. And so looking at that, and then at that time, some of the players that were committing as well, I didn't feel best fit me.
Right.
And so
if you'd have gone there, you might not have gotten an opportunity that you've gotten somewhere else.
Right,
okay.
right,
okay.
right.
And then when Coach Yow came, what was the difference, and what did you see there that was different than when Coach Hatchell came to visit you?
I saw heart, but not heart for the game. It was just heart because I'm human.
Really?
Yeah. And there was no pressure. It was just, of course, every school want to sell them, sell you their school.
Yeah.
But it was nothing to sell. Like, Coach Yow was NC State. So there's nothing to sell. It was just to be. So she came to the house and she was just there. Yeah. So it wasn't much selling.
Right.
And she spoke mostly about your character and building the person versus, oh, you're going to start, oh, this is what I want for you, or this is where I see you on the court. It wasn't about that. Coach Yow's always been about outside the lines. Did she want to win? Yes.
Right.
What coach don't want to win?
And
And did, yeah. But for her, winning was bigger off the court versus on the court.
Yeah.
She wanted you to win at life.
And she visited you during volleyball season. She didn't even visit you during basketball season.
No. She came to a volleyball game and sat there and watched me, play volleyball. And so even, that was, I think my mom might have mentioned to her, how does it look playing two sports, in college?
Right.
And, she was just saying how hard it is to do one sport in college versus, and we're talking about two.
Sure.
So I gave her a show. She enjoyed herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and again, the interview that I read, you talked about how much that influenced you. She didn't even, she may have come and you didn't even know she was there at one of your other games, but she didn't even come to watch you play basketball.
It wasn't about basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't about basketball. She came down for a volleyball game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like the first time you took the court for NC State when she's, she visits you, you sign, she's still Coach Yow from NC State, but all of a sudden you walk on that campus and you're a player for Coach Kay Yow. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
And in Reynolds,
yeah,
I think that took on another form of itself. You know, it having so much history, it was nerve-wracking. In a good way. You know, you have butterflies, you're a freshman, playing for NC State, you're in the ACC, then it's Coach Yow. And with her, Coach Yow has a silent way of pushing us. Like, she was never the rah, rah, rah. That was never her.
Yeah.
It only took the look. It was only the look to know, okay, I can do better than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so it only took the look half the time. And, the look pushed you. And you wanted to do that. Like I always say, for a coach, once players know that you care about them, they will run through the wall, for you. And we knew that. Mm-hmm. So, and we did the work, whatever she, wanted us to do to get better. We really tried our best to do just that.
Was there a game in that freshman year or a time in that freshman year early on, maybe even a practice where you're like, whoa, this is a level that I've never played at before?
It was actually my freshman year, it was the GlaxoSmithKline tournament. Mm-hmm. And, good competition. Coach, we were down at one point, but Coach just put me in and just was just like, go, go. Mm-hmm. And I just went out there without a care in the world to just play the game that I love so much, Mm-hmm. And she was my cheerleader. In her own way,
right.
And so that was actually the tournament that had gotten, tournament
MVP.
Yeah. And
you
so
brought the hardware home from that one.
Yeah. So it was just awesome because you have the backing.
Yeah.
I had the backing, during that time.
And that freshman year, Sweet 16. I mean,
mm-hmm.
to go in that year and do what you did, never topped that the rest of the way, but still, to be able to make that transition mm-hmm. and then start at that level. Mm-hmm. What is it like playing competitive sports on that level at a university like that? Was that difficult for you, balancing studies and balancing schools and everything else like that? Are you really an athlete, or were you really a student first?
Honestly, and this is just the truth, it depend on the day and how much more time within the day that we had. Like, mm-hmm. It's kind of hard not to be a student athlete because when you have study hall and tutors factor into all of that, like, it's a must. Mm-hmm. So the amount of support that we had is kind of hard to fail at the student part. So we have the support for a reason. But, like I said, Coach Yow did a good job. Coach Yow and the staff, because, without Coach Yow and the staff, that would have been kind of hard. But she really tried her best to provide the things to assist us, mm-hmm. not give it to us, right. but assist.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. It's difficult when you wake up in the morning, you have a 6 a.m. Sometimes you have a 6 a.m. Lifting workout. Yeah. Then you have class at 8:30. Then you try to fit something in for lunch, and then you have a 3-hour practice. And after that, you try to eat some dinner. After that, is study hall. And so then you have to meet with a tutor because you didn't get everything from study hall.
Right.
And so it's. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think that the people who have never done it don't know the gravity of, because you've traveled. Mm-hmm. I mean, not every game's in Chapel Hill or Durham. No. You're taking bus rides, you're taking flights mm-hmm. in some of these instances, and plus you're still a student. Mm-hmm. At any point it ever drag on you?
Well, of course, because mainly towards the middle of the season and the end, because at that level you're exhausted.
Yeah.
From the traveling, the school, and all the above, but you find some way to persevere.
Yeah.
But with Coach Yow, like, if we had an away game, she was the coach and the teachers agreed as well that we had to get our assignments in before we left.
Oh, really?
If they were due while we were on the road or a little before we had to get them in before we left.
Yeah.
So
there was no Dropbox back then, or no emailing things in.
Right. No, it was definitely none of that. So, but yeah, it could be a bit tiring.
Yeah.
But that's what you live for.
Did you stay in touch with her after you left NC State?
Oh, of course. It's kind of hard not to stay in touch with such a bright soul. And so I came back for sure every summer and worked camps. Kay Yow camps were the thing to do all summer.
Really?
Oh, yeah. All summer. And, not only that, when I was working out to get prepared to go back overseas, that's something, the gym is always open. The weight room was always open, to do just that.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty much most players would come back just to do Kay Yow camp. Yeah. And then you spend time with Coach Yow as well in the process. Yeah. And she takes care of her players. Yeah, so.
Yeah, good stuff. When you graduated, was the WNBA an option? Why did you go overseas?
I didn't. I lost my confidence somewhere along, my last year, my senior year, and I didn't feel it. I didn't have the confidence to even try, which is like,
Now, see, that doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't sound like you, the player that I watched and the player that you were at NC State. But I guess everybody goes through it.
Right. Yeah. And I took on a different role my senior year, and not because I was asked to. It was comfortable in that space. Yeah. I know that now, of course, looking back.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's where the all defensive team came in, because I took the role where I was the stopper. If Coach Yow put me on the best players. Yeah. And so that's the route that I took. So then after that, like I said, I didn't even try. It was just overseas route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did that do for you as a player, because you had success? You went right over there and had success and won championships. Mm-hmm. But what did that do for you as a person? What was that experience like for Nanna as a young lady? And you're living overseas. Mm-hmm. I would imagine you're there by yourself. I didn't know if any family moved over there with you. So what was that experience like? It had to be different.
I think as life went on for me, just up into NC State, I traveled a lot anyway. With AAU, I was going to different states, that kind of thing. So it somewhat prepped me for travel. Yeah. Of course, not to that magnitude of being alone. Mm-hmm. But one of the big things for me that I was able to take away from being in Europe for 5 years was just for one, that was the healthiest I've ever been in my life. So, eating habits, mentally I was in a better space, and it was just the quality of, they appreciate the quality of life a little more. Really? So I had cars everywhere I went, but I also had bikes. So I just ride my bike to practice or to the store, that kind of thing. Yeah. The countries I was in as well, really valued lunch breaks. So at that time, it'll be like 2-hour lunch breaks in the middle of the day. But that was also their biggest meal of the day. So, it took more time with it. Yeah. And so just the quality of life, for me was better and smaller, but I can do smaller. Yeah. I don't always have to have the big extravagant, things.
But also you're having confidence. You're on your own. You're winning championships, and you're doing well. So self-confidence, it had to be a major boost.
Well, definitely with that. But I've had some great teammates. I have teammates in those countries that I still speak with.
I was going to ask you, do you still have relationships with some young ladies?
And so, of course, with the language barrier in some places, it was tough. Mm-hmm. But I had people on the team who, like I said, friends, not necessarily just people, but friends on the team that would always make sure I was, good whenever I needed it. Yeah. So, but it definitely makes you walk up a little straighter, and because you are there alone. Yeah. Yeah. Really. Per se. Yeah. So, my family was a phone call away or email away or that kind of thing. So that helped. I was able to come home for holidays. So that, come back, get my love cup filled, and then just and then hop back on the plane.
How did the type of basketball? Obviously, you got to put the ball through the hoop, but was it a different type of game? Did you have to, change your game to really kind of fit that system over there?
I did, and I think when I was in Holland, that was a good starter league for me because the travel is a different call over there, and it's a different step. And so I got called for travels a lot, and which a lot of players that play over there get called for travels a lot, again, because it's a different call. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely had to adjust to that. And not only that, I had to adjust to the physicality, like no blood, no foul. And
that's what Ann Donovan told me, too. When she played overseas, she said she would get elbows and come back with bloody lips and bloody noses, and it was just a different level.
No blood, no foul. And that was something I was not ready for, but quickly adjusted.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so physical. So physical. And even because Coach Yow would have teams from, overseas come back and play in our exhibition games. And most of them will probably foul out within those games because it's different here than it was there. So,
So, and we talked about this earlier. So when you get done playing, what made you make the decision that you were done playing?
I told myself that I'd never just play for the money, because I know what it takes to be the best player and to get there. And so that meant over the summer, that meant coming home and still working on your craft, being in the gym, working out, weights, all the above. That's what it takes. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I had come home one summer and I wasn't in the gym like I normally was. And for me, it's just like, okay, I'm not doing what it takes. And I love the game and I respect the game too much to give the game half of me. So for me, that was just like, okay, that's it.
Okay, so we talked about you come back and talk to Coach Boles. How did the opportunity with Ann come up at Seton Hall?
I did an email blast.
Oh, really?
To my NC State family, because we have an email system, alumni system. Yeah. And it's like, hey guys, I'm looking to get into coaching. Anybody that knows anybody, let me know. And Coach Boles was doing her piece. And, of course, that didn't take long for people to connect here and there. Yeah. And literally not even 2-3 days later, Coach Jennifer Palmatier reached out to me. It was like, hey, Nanna. I was like, hey. She was headed to Seton Hall as well. You want to come up to Seton Hall with us? That's a no-brainer. I was in Jersey within the next few weeks. Yeah, so it was just, again, and then if you have someone, again, that has your best interests at heart, looking out for you. Like Coach Boles said, it only took me sending out an email to do that, because I actually have people that really care about me.
Okay, so you're a player, and now all of a sudden you're a coach. How different was that?
Do you know, John, I said I never wanted to coach. I said I never wanted to coach because I didn't think I'd be able to coach players that didn't have the same drive and heart as I did. Yeah. And so I got that my first year in coaching. Just those players that didn't have the same heart and same drive. Yeah. But, thankfully I was under someone as amazing as Coach Donovan, whom that part didn't matter as much, because it was about helping young women become young. It was helping girls become young women. Yeah. And so we did more team meetings. We did more character building. We did those things mostly because the heart wasn't there. And so it was just like, okay, well, why isn't you? You have a full scholarship, Yeah. So we invested in the players. And no, we didn't win. We didn't win a lot that year, but we invested into the players and they bought into us eventually, and then eventually they started wanting to work hard. We were a new staff. Yeah. Everyone was a new staff, and so they were used to the old staff. And so, being, Coach Donovan, coached in the pros, for a while. Yeah. She brought that mentality, that player first mentality. And, she really,
So you were coaching and getting coached at the same time.
Oh, that's the best thing. That's the best thing. But again, I've always had that. Yeah. I've always had that. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is she'd be open to any, her office was always open. Yeah. Phone call away. And so she'd always welcome any feedback or anything I had to share or any new ideas I might have had, and that kind of thing. She always welcomed them. Yeah. Yeah.
And
awesome.
on top of that, she was one of the best to ever play the game.
For sure.
Gold medal winning player, gold medal winning coach. I mean, you really, again, and you said this, the people you have had guiding your life have really been top notch.
I've had the definition of what humble looks like in my career. And so both of not just them, as coming up as well, but Coach Yow's and Coach Donovan's accolades do not define them at all.
And Sheila Boles on top,
for sure.
Don Corey and some of the other ones.
For sure.
And then, for some unknown reason, you want to become a referee. Now, you spend all your time criticizing or waiting for that whistle and just saying, or on the sideline saying, you don't know. Where did that come from?
It was during the times where I knew I was going to start transition out of coaching. Me and another coach at the time would joke around and practice while we were coaching. And we would be referees during practice, during scrimmage games, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so it was something I considered. It's like, oh, okay, maybe officiating, but still not seriously yet, until I decided to give up coaching completely and I started my own life coaching business. Right. And so with that, I was just like, okay, well, what else can I do that I love? Because here on out, if I don't love it, I can't be a part of it. And so what else can I do that I love that complements my life coaching business, and the fish and will still allow me to be on the court and, be around something I love. Good shape. Yeah, for sure. And so so then I ended up, telling a few people, hey, I'm interested in reffing. And then voila, like I was on the court. I actually started in Texas, with a friend of mine, and she just threw me out there. Yeah. And the thing is she was just like, I'm preparing you for college. Yeah. So I started off with college officials and NBA officials, you know. So I was, even then with training, I've always had some of the best coaches and best trainers. Yeah. And so, it had taken, I was actually out there for an entire summer just working.
And people don't realize how much work goes into that.
It's work.
Yeah.
It's
because the athletes are running up and down, but the referees have got to go up and down just as much as the athletes do.
And the top-notch officials today, like if you want to be a great official and have that longevity, you want to take care of your body. So you want to be able to eat how you're supposed to eat, work out. Those things come with being one of the best, officials. Because again, the joke is, we get older, but the players stay the same age.
Yeah. And they're better athletes now than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Right. And so I like the thing is I like the whole aspect of, I can do a game, I can leave, but I watch film. I'm a player at heart when it comes to officiating.
You watch your own?
I watch film because how else am I going to know why I missed the call? Right. Oh, maybe my position wasn't where it needs to be, and so I watch film after a game. If it's not a road game, I'll watch film. They give us the film and we watch it. Nice. And so, but that's of course that's a personal decision.
Do you referee men's or women's games?
Women's college.
Women's college. Would you ever want to ref a men's college game? Is the game different between the men's game and the women's game as far as being an official is concerned?
It is different. The rules are different. Actually, the women's rules are more similar to the NBA rules. And so, yes, I would love to referee men. I don't know how likely that is with NCAA men, but thankfully, for the last 2 summers, I've been put into the NBA grassroots program, which they train you to go to the D-League, WNBA, NBA, that kind of thing. And so thankfully I was chosen to participate in that. So I have another summer to get in. So that's
So is that a goal?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. What are your other goals?
Well, for sure, get into, the WNBA. Who wouldn't want to referee in the WNBA? And I want to referee NCAA championship. Because it's just like, again, if I'm going to be into something, I want to do my very best. And so getting there would be awesome as well.
Athletics has been so much a part of your life. When you were going to open up your own coaching business, though, that's a different deal. That's a business. That's a living. What was that like for you?
It was a no-brainer because I've had life coaches all my life, John. All my life.
Right.
And so I know the need for it. Like, think about an athlete with no coach. Where are they gonna go?
Right.
You know.
Sure.
And so to me that's the same about life as well. We always need someone to assist us in getting us where we need to be.
But how do you go? The first client that came in, the first call you got. I mean, it's different than making a pass and watching somebody shoot. You've got to get clients. I mean, you've got bills to pay. Now, you're a referee and you're doing all this other stuff. But still, when you're a business owner, that's a different ball game. Excuse the pun.
Right, no.
But so when you wanted that first client and when you got that first client, that had to, again, be a step up in success for Nanna Rivers.
Now, you know, my parents are entrepreneurs as well. Like, my dad has had a shoe repair shop since I'm a shoe repair shop person. Like, period. We used to help sweep the shop, and he didn't pay anybody to come help. We were to help.
Sure.
And then my mom owned her own hair business. Since I can remember.
Right.
And so it's something that I've always seen. Like, it hasn't always been easy, and we didn't always get the things that we wanted. We got what we needed.
Yep.
And so in times when I first made the leap, they knew, because they've already been there. They knew what I was getting myself into. And, they were a bit nervous. But it's just like, again, when you know your purpose, I know why I'm here. It's like, okay, you just got to jump.
Yeah.
And so having that first client was everything.
Without giving it away, and I don't want you to give away anything, tell me about the first client. Without giving anything away, because it had to be different. You're trying to do this, and now all of a sudden you're getting paid for your knowledge.
So my first client was actually when I was still coaching basketball.
Okay.
So I was still in the coaching basketball realm of things. And just to have them reach out for my services, even more so, it told me, okay, it's time to make that, make that jump. And so, of course, with me, it's just like, okay, give me an outline of what goals we're trying to work towards. And they wanted to work with me. And so it's surreal, because it's like, you want to do it, but then having those people to validate and, come into your space and want you to be a part of their journey it's like winning a championship.
Yeah.
It's,
so a buzzer beater at the
end.
Yeah.
And so a win for me these days is a client calling me, telling me that they chose Panera Bread over McDonald's. So that's
a great way to put it.
That's a win. That's a win for me, and them taking back that they have a choice, to create that life that they want. Yeah. That's my idea of a win.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you got the call to be enshrined in the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame, take me back to when you got that call and what went through your mind.
Time stopped. Coach Boles called, and everyone knows when Coach Boles called, it's Coach Boles. Yeah. And so time stopped. Yeah. And she goes, Nanna? I was like, hey, Coach Boles. She goes, will you be free May of 2018? This was like September. And I go, I don't know, but wherever you need me to be, I'll be there in May 2018. And she was like, okay, just wanted to check because you're being inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame. I almost dropped the phone, but I was like, what? Yeah. And so it was so exciting to just be honored. I'm still young, Oh yeah. But so I still feel like I have, things to accomplish.
You've got 40 or 50 years to live.
For sure, yeah. And so just to be recognized with some of the greatest people from Wilmington, it's such an honor. It's such an honor, and to have Coach Boles, who's been on me since high school, to call me up to, offer me that, and I know she's on the board as well, but it was amazing. It was so amazing. Like, words can't even explain how excited I was. Yeah,
because when I saw you, we did the news conference beforehand, and your expression at the news conference was one way because there was maybe a dozen, maybe 18 people there. But when you got into the ballroom and when you walked up to the microphone in the ballroom, there was a different look in your eye. Okay. From my vantage point. Okay. It was a pride there was pride when you were in the news conference. There was pride, there was amazement, there was genuine happiness. There's some things, like you said, you can't put into words, but there was pride maybe times 2 or times 3 when you stood up that night to talk to everybody about being enshrined.
Yeah. I think it was in that moment, even before the moment, like, I'm so appreciative of everyone that has gotten me where I am now, but definitely on that stage. Mm-hmm. And I just know I couldn't do it alone. And it was something about me speaking with everyone and hoping that they got that, I'm not up here. I'm up here, yeah. Mm-hmm. But everyone that's got me up here is just as important as me being up here.
Yeah, I think you said something about this stage should be a lot bigger because of all the people that should be up here with me.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean that because, again, I couldn't have done it alone at all. Yeah. So it was amazing. It was amazing. It was definitely nerve-wracking. And the thing, it's funny, John, how, sometimes we allow other people's fears to drive us nuts, because Coach Boles had come over. We had a cookout, and Coach Boles had come over to the cookout the day before. And, she's just like, Nanna's going to be over 500 people. You got your speech prepared. And I'm like,
thanks, Coach.
Nope. And so then my mom's like, Coach Bowles, get her. She need to have her speech prepared. And I was just like, it was just like all of this stuff. And for me, it drives me nuts to actually prepare a speech, like written out, and read it. And so I had taken a piece of paper up there just so my mom could breathe a little bit. But on the paper, I put "be a beast," because, again, I just want to speak from my heart. And so to just speak from my heart is that's easier for me. So just to naturally speak from my heart. So so they're amazing, though. They're amazing.
Your life has been just, you've talked about all the people that have blessed you and all the people that have been alongside of you. But when I look at Nanna now compared to the young lady I saw playing basketball at Hoggard, you have won so many times, personally, professionally. What was the lowest point that you learned from? Was there a game that you lost that you learned from? Was there a time when you lost somebody in your family that you learned from? Because you're always so positive, and you've always been impacted by so many positive things. We all learn from either mistakes that we made or losses that we suffer. What's the biggest one that you've learned from that you use maybe as incentive, or maybe somebody that you remember something they said years and years later?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Because we all, we all, by our failures, we take bigger steps than by our successes sometimes. I think, we do when we learn something and we correct it, we take a bigger step forward, professionally and personally. And there has to have been something that really stuck with you, maybe that somebody said to you, maybe a loss that you suffered, I'm never going to lose that way again. And I'm just curious, because you've always been so driven, but you've always been so positive too. And that's the thing that really kind of shows to me ever since I've known you. Right.
I don't think it's been one thing, because I've lost a lot. Not just, on the court, but striving, like I want to be the best in everything I do. And being rejected is a loss somewhat, but it also pushes you, and so with basketball teaching me to persevere and having those people in my life, after, we might lose a tough game, let's say a Carolina game, and, to have, coaches in your life to say, okay, yeah, we might have lost, but what are we taking from it? And so I would just say it's been a lot of different. I don't think it's just been one. Right. One that's kind of taken me under. I don't say under, but I don't think it's been one. I just think it's. Yeah, that's a great question.
On life's scoreboard, you sure have won a lot more than you've lost. When you talk to young ladies these days, whether it's a high school student or whether it's a college student, what advice do you give them? I know you're a life coach, but when you talk to young ladies in high school or talk to young ladies on a college campus, what do you tell them?
And I mean, you know that I have younger sisters.
Yes.
Whom are in high school, whom are in sports. And one of the things that I see them battling with the most is being liked. And doing whatever I guess the crowd is doing to be liked. And not really embracing their uniqueness of just self and what they bring to the table. And so for me, when it comes to that age, and the parents within, parenting that age, is embrace their uniqueness, embrace the side of them that's different, that's needed in that team. Mm-hmm. Or that's needed in that friend circle, or whatever place within their life, their uniqueness is needed. Mm-hmm. So really embrace their uniqueness would be something that I really, with my sisters, we have this conversation all day. Just something as small as my hair, literally, John. Like when my sister wants to change her hair, it's a whole big conversation, and I'm just like, just change your hair, like it's you, and it's okay, right. Yeah. Somebody's waiting on you to change your hair so they can change theirs. Yeah. So change your hair.
Do you worry about your younger sister in today's society? In high school at Laney?
A bit.
I mean, and not because of Laney High School is any different than any other, but in today's society with school violence and with social media, she's a freshman, and you talk about athletes in your family, she may be, and from my vantage point, the best of the entire group.
Yeah. Yeah.
She is a star in the making. But do you worry about her because of school violence, because of social media and the impact of today's society?
Probably not in the way that one may think. John, when I say I really have people around, I have people around. My godmom, Sharon Ducharme, is the principal at Laney. Yeah. So someone's always watching her. Right. So yeah. There's a report coming in anytime if I needed it.
If Shania doesn't know it.
Yeah, for sure. There are eyes on her for sure. But for me with her, my concern more so is just like she has a big heart. And us as Rivers, like we just have big hearts. Yeah. And sometimes she ignored that for others, and she wants to be liked and, to fit, in, and so for me, it's just, continue to, let her know that, your uniqueness is embraced as well. So the whole, like I said, we have eyes everywhere. So that part doesn't necessarily worry me. Even when I was in high school, we had eyes everywhere. We couldn't do anything without someone knowing our parents. Yeah. Or Coach Boles or something. We just couldn't.
That's why my wife had, when our kids were going through Hoggard, that, they'd walk around and somebody would tell Sheila something, and all of a sudden it would get back, and it's, how did you know that?
Right.
And Sheila would say, I know people.
Right.
And on top of that, Dad's on TV every night too. So, but I mean, it really is amazing. And you've been through the recruiting wars. You've been through all that kind of thing. So you're obviously, I would hope and think that you're going to be there for her, because
for sure.
She's already getting it from what I understand. Correct?
For sure. She's getting a lot of offers, and even with that, like, she knows, because a lot of people are like, oh, she's going to go to state, and for me, it's definitely not about her going to NC State. Right. Like, she has to spend the next 4 years at someone's institution. She needs to be happy at that institution. So if it's not NC State, or any other school of my quote unquote liking, for me, my opinion is, about the coach. Because it's like, okay, if you want to go somewhere, let's dissect the coach. Yeah. I know what some coaches do as far as getting players to their school. I've been there. Right. And so I just want her to be happy. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter where she goes.
And be a big sister on and off the court.
For sure. And poor kid, like she knows, to be a River, sometimes we go hard. Like we go hard. Yeah. And so with her, there's no slacking, because she knows she's going to hear it.
She's seen it. And she's lived through it. But she's a good young lady too.
For sure. Yeah.
It is so fun to sit down with you. I mean, when we kind of reconnected at the Sports Hall of Fame thing, it was a kick for me to see you as happy as you were, but to see you doing so well and enjoying refereeing and enjoying everything else like that, it really is kind of fun to reconnect with you. And I'm so glad you made time to come in today. Thanks to Nanna Rivers for coming in for this week's podcast as she works toward that goal of one day refereeing a WNBA or an NCAA men's championship basketball game. She's continuing with that life coaching business. You can reach out to her on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can even drop her an email at nannariverscoaching@gmail.com. Coming up next week, Wilmington's Ninja Warrior, Solomon Harvey, will join us.
We're there at night, so we start filming once the sun goes down, probably around 8, 9 o'clock, and we're there until we're done. So the last time I filmed for Ninja Warrior, I was the last person to run. Oh. So I ran at like 6:45 in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I was the last person to run, got up there, made it through the qualifiers. So now it's, all right, hustle back to the hotel, try and get some sleep, because we got to come right back this evening to do the same thing. And if you can't sleep, after all that adrenaline's pumping, and then once you get there at night, there's hustling and bustling going on. If you can't find a nice quiet place to get some rest, it's very rough.
That's Solomon Harvey next week right here on our podcast. Do you know someone who you think would be a good interview for an upcoming episode? Please let me know about it. Send me an email to jevans@wect.com. And I'm asking you to please subscribe to the podcast as well. That helps us with our recommendations. The more recommendations we get, the more listeners we can get here and all across the country. And if you leave a rating or a review for this week's podcast or any of the others that you've listened to, and you send me a screenshot of it by email, once again, jevans@wect.com, you could be the lucky listener we pick at random, and we'll send you one of those great-looking WECT travel mugs. I'm John Evans. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of One on One.